Good morning, 7th graders. Today we're going to continue with our genetics unit, and you should have already seen the Gregor Mendel P video today and did your ed puzzle. If you haven't, that should be the next thing you do. And we're just going to go over and review some genetics vocab that we have already learned this year, but it's important that we remember. So the first word that we have is a feature, which is an inherited structure. Okay, you can see the examples down here. They're basically our body parts, okay? You have your legs or your arms or your hair. Those are all characteristics. Those are all parts of you that you get when you are born. You either have them or you don't, but they are a feature that is passed on, okay? And then on top of that, you have the trait. This is the individual expression of a feature. It is what the feature looks like. Okay? So you could have red hair or blonde hair or black hair. Those are all traits, right? You also have tall, short, right? Etc. So traits are what the feature looks like. Next, you have variation, which is the range of difference between the traits of a feature in a population. Okay? It's important to know that this is in a population. So you can see the differences between, like, the elephants here. You can see one has a really long tusk and one has a short trunk. And then you see that one has tusks and one does not have tusks. You can see the difference in the color of the elephant's skin. Those are all variations, right? You can see that in Mrs. Appel's family here. She has red hair, and the rest of her family has brown hair. You can see it in my family here. My mom has red hair. The rest of my family has black hair. Okay? So this is the difference between the traits of a feature in a population. Next, you have dominant, the stronger version of the trait. The dominant trait is always going to be represented by the capital letter, and in this case, it's brown eyes, okay? Then you have the recessive trait, which is the weaker version of the trait. That's always going to be identified by a lowercase letter, and in this case, it is blue eyes. The alleles are simply the letters used to represent the genes. So here your alleles are capital A and lowercase a. Okay? Heterozygous means that the alleles are different. So you can see here there's heterozygous alleles here and here because there's a capital A and a lowercase a. So they're different. And then homozygous means that the alleles are the same. So you can see that here there's two capital and here there's two lowercase. When there's two capital, it's going to be dominant. When there's two lowercase, it's going to be recessive. Okay, and we'll talk about what that means a little bit further down the line when we get to Punnett squares. The genotype tells the alleles or genes of an organism. The genotype tells the genes, right? And it tells us here, for example, is the mom's genotype. Here we have the dad's genotype, and these are the genotypes of their possible offspring. Okay, it's the combination of alleles is the genotype. And then the phenotype is the physical appearance of the genotype. Will it have brown eyes or blue eyes? Okay? And then finally we have the Punnett square. So if you remember from when we did this in class, the first thing we need is the mom and dad's genotypes. So we know the mom had a big A and a little a, and we know the dad had a big A and a little a, right? And that means that mom had brown eyes and dad had brown eyes. Now, what we do is we have the square, and we have to put the father's genes up here on the top. So we have big A, little a. Okay? And then we have to do the same for the moms on the side, a big A and a little a. Okay? And now we combine them. So what's on the top? A big A. What's on the left? A big A. What's on the top? A little a. And over on the side is a big A. Remember, those big A's always come first in the genotypes no matter where they come from on the Punnett square. Okay? So up on the top we have a big A. Over on the side we have a little a. Up on the top we have a little a. Over on the side we have a little a. So now we've filled out the whole Punnett square. Okay? Now we need to write the phenotypes. So anytime that there's a capital A, it's going to be brown because that's the dominant gene, right? So these are brown. These are brown. And brown. And then again, whenever there's two little a's like there is right here, that's when we see that recessive blue trait. Okay? We're still not quite done yet. Okay? We're still not quite done. Each of these boxes is worth 25%. Okay? Each of the boxes is worth 25%. So there's 1, 2, 3 boxes with brown, which means that brown, there's a 75% chance that the child will have a brown eyes. And then there's only one box with blue, so that means that there's a 25% chance that the child will have blue eyes. Okay? So these are our main vocab words that we will have that we'll be working with throughout the rest of this unit. So if you have questions, make sure to email your teacher or comment on Google Classroom.